So it's time to talk a little bit about Satanism. And it's important to be able to recognize what this ideology is, because most of the world has been inculcated into this way of being, and they don't even recognize it as such. So the first tenet of the satanic ideology is egotism / selfishness. So when you put self-preservation above all else, and when you put yourself first, regardless of the consequences to others, then you're sliding down the slippery slope of Satanism. And a good example of selfishness / egotism is when you're driving along on the highway and a motherfucker just decides to cut in, doesn't look who else might be coming from behind, they just cut in, they're being selfish, and they just take over the lane. The second tenet of Satanism is moral relativism. So that's the idea that humans can make up what right and wrong are, and there is no such thing as morality that exists objectively in nature. So a good example of moral relativism is man's law, and man's law, of course, changes with time and place and the whim of legislators and things like that. And then the third tenet of Satanism is social Darwinism. So social Darwinism is the belief that might makes right, and that the most ruthless motherfuckers in society can rule the roost, like in the animal kingdom. And then that's exactly, like, a good example of that is what government is, and also what we humans do to animals. We think because we've got the might and the tools and all that stuff that we can just dominate animals and destroy their lives. And then the final tenet of Satanism is eugenics. So what eugenics is about is, because some are considered masters and others are considered slaves, then the masters or the rulers can decide who lives and who dies. And then that is obviously wrong, and it's psychopathic. But if you're a psychopath, then Satanism is obviously for you.